Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's SCORE workshop, Restaurant Planning for Success. My name is Jerry Smith. I'm a SCORE mentor and workshop team leader for the Piedmont chapter. I'll be monitoring the chat and the Q&A windows throughout the webinar. If you guys have any questions, please ask and we'll do our best to get them all answered. For those that may not be familiar with SCORE, we're a nonprofit organization, a resource partner for the SBA, and we're 100% volunteer-based. SCORE basically has two main areas of focus. The first, what we're primarily known for, is one-on-one mentoring. That's done by experienced business owners and executives, and also our workshop program, such as today's event. Well, the bottom line message is that we're really here to help small local businesses in any way we can. If you'd like some more information on SCORE, please visit our website at piedmont.score.org. At this time, I'd like to introduce our presenter, Paul Hanson. Paul is a retired restaurant professional and franchise specialist. He's also a SCORE mentor and our resident restaurant subject matter expert. I'm really looking forward to hearing his insights on restaurant business planning. But before Paul gets started, I'd like to do a quick overview of a business tool we call the Lean Canvas. Paul's going to use this tool simply as a framework to present his business planning ideas as we go along. So with that said, Paul, can you go to the first slide, please? So who might benefit from today's workshop and the overall planning process? And obviously, there's many people at different stages of their restaurant planning. Some have been in business for a while, some are just starting, but each of you face some unique challenges. And therefore, really anybody who's interested in either starting a restaurant business or already in that business will benefit today. There's a lot to cover, but SCORE's here to help. So if we go to the next slide, please. So overall for business planning, what is it? It's really a roadmap. It outlines, how you're going to go about achieving your goals. And why do we do it? Well, we got a quote here from Yogi Berra. He says, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. So with that said, well, when should it be done? Well, prior to starting would be ideal, but really it can be updated and used at any time. And who's involved with the planning process? Well, that depends on the size of your restaurant, your team. But really, the main thing is the entrepreneur must lead the process. You absolutely have to be the leader of this and be deeply involved. And how is it done? Well, we can either go into in depth with a traditional business plan, or in using a modeling tool. We're going to talk about a one-page business plan, such as the Lean Canvas. So we can go to the next slide, please. And the differences. So over on the left, you see the multi-page book. That's your typical business plan. There's a lot to that. It's important though. Especially if you need to obtain financing, you actually are going to have to go through and do the detail of a real business plan. But the Lean Canvas over on the right, it's either a great starting point to segue into the business plan, or just used as a standalone doc for a lot of businesses that are a little bit more simplified. They don't need to go into that level of the traditional plan. As we say here, it's a single page, a poster, a whiteboard. There's all different ways to go about doing it. It's basically 12 blocks or 12 questions that get you really thinking from a customer's perspective, what you're trying to achieve. So the next slide, please. What we're going to try to do throughout is keep what we call an external focus. What that is you're really focusing on the customer. So we say at the top here, an internally focused company is one which systems, process, and internal politics matter the most. They often expect partners and customers to conform to their way of doing things, while an externally focused organization typically emphasizes market needs and overall customer experience. The Lean Canvas is heavily slanted toward external. And to be clear, there needs to be internal controls. There needs to be process and systems. That's very important. But what we're trying to say here is that we're trying to look through the customer's eyes and knowing that we're trying to create that kind of atmosphere, especially in hospitality and restaurant. We need to be looking at that side of things and that repeat customer. So the next slide, please. The other topic is that it's really one idea per plan. And in most cases, that's fine. But let's say we have here, like this example, where you might have a business that's doing bakery items, and then you have another one that's doing lunch catering. And you say, hey, these are a little bit different. Maybe there's a different market that you're trying to market towards for each one of them. So they may require their own lean canvas. The tool is simple enough to go through. If you sit down and really think through each one of these blocks. It takes between an hour and 2 hours, so it's really not too bad. But it gives you that opportunity to really take a step back and think about your planning. Next slide, please. And finally, you're going to get a copy of this. So we'll also send you the Lean Canvas template, so you can use this. It's a Word doc. You can use it, but again, you can fill this out in any other way. You can use a regular piece of paper to do it. You could type them into a spreadsheet if that's easier. I've seen a lot of people take this. But the main thing is to answer the 12 questions that's outlined. And in the remaining slides, Paul's going to go through each one of these topics and talk to them pretty specifically from a restaurant planning perspective. So at this point, I'm going to turn everything over to Paul. I'm going to be back in the background here, guys. If you have any questions, please throw them into the chat queue, and I'll monitor that and get that going for you.
Well, thank you, Jerry. And with that, we'll get started specifically talking about developing a restaurant concept. And the first thing we really want to talk about on the Lean Canvas was that first box, and that's the customer problem. And this is really the most important question you need to ask when you are thinking about developing a restaurant. What is the problem that you're trying to solve for the customer? What is the reason they're going to come to your restaurant? And I just listed a few things here, but quality food that I enjoy, that's a customer problem for a lot of folks because they really can't find what they really like, really enjoy. So how do you define quality? Is it nutritional? Is it clean? Is it free of antibiotics, dyes, chemicals they can't pronounce? Is it fresh? Also, the dining atmosphere. What kind of establishment are you trying to create with this atmosphere? If you think about some of the names out there like McDonald's, Panera Bread, Waffle House, Cheers, the Cheers bar on the TV show, white tablecloth, they all have an atmosphere about them. You think about Starbucks, and they came up with what they called the third place for their concept, and they defined the third place as a unique warmth that sets it apart from a customer's first two places, which are home and work. So they've really tried to create this atmosphere in their establishment that sets it apart from home and work, but it's a place you really enjoy going to. Another problem you may be trying to solve for people is value for the money. Do I feel good about the money I spend on my dining experience? The food, the drink, the customization, the service, the environment, that all contributes to value. Speed and quality of service, whether you have a fast food restaurant, family dining, white tablecloth, whatever it may be, there's quality to the service and the speed. Obviously, fast food's got to be faster than a sit-down dining establishment, but even a sit-down dining establishment needs to have a certain amount of speed. And then we really want to focus on our guest, our customer. And one of the things we do there is hire slow. We want to hire the people that really contribute to our business and our culture within the restaurant, and fire fast. If we have people that just aren't adopting the culture that we want to move along and get those people that can. And then in the restaurant business, like many businesses, we always talk about location, location, location. It's critically important. Is it easy to get in and out of your establishment, whether you're a freestanding building or a walk-up facility? Is it easy to get on and off your site, whether you're driving or walking? Are you located in the heart of some activity? Are you visible? Um, are you near home, work, or a entertainment destination? Those are all important things to be thinking about when you're looking for your location. With COVID now, and of course that's subsiding to a degree, but meal replacement is gotten to be a big deal over this last year or so. A lot of people really don't want to eat out in a packed dining room. So you got to think about, has COVID changed our perception of dining, um, going into the future? Um, Today, when people think about entertainment, that could be streaming video in their home through one of the many services and eating a high quality restaurant meal that's been either delivered or they go pick it up. Contactless pickup has gotten to be a big thing. Curbside pickup, drive-through windows. Again, will this live on once we get over COVID? The jury's still out on that, but we need to think about, how do we satisfy customers' need here? And then think about customer segments. What segment are you looking to service? Is it singles, couples, families? Which one are you targeting? You can look at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, those traditional meal periods, late night. Again, what day part are you targeting? Are you looking at catering in addition to running a restaurant? Are you looking at delivery, the drive-through, the curbside pickup? How is the customer going to use your service? And then we always talk about pioneer adopters, and those are customers that recognize a need. Um, what is it that you want to, what is it that they really want but they can't get? And if you think about um, what Starbucks did, um, they offered high quality hot and cold beverages, and who would have thought that filled a great need, but it obviously has. And many of these pioneer adopters are dissatisfied with current options, so they're looking for that next thing that's going to really satisfy what it is they want in a restaurant. McDonald's solved the speed, consistency, and pricing. They're kid friendly. So if you're a parent, it's a low cost, consistent place to eat, whether you think their food is great or not. They always provide low price, speed, kid friendly, and their food is always the same. E-sales through an app, uh, Panera Bread and Chipotle have really pioneered this, but going forward, it's probably critical that you think about e-sales and how are you going to compete in that environment. And then existing solutions to these customer problems that are already out there. What competitive restaurant concepts are out there that you're going to have to compete with in this niche you're looking at? And can you outperform the competition? And it's not just the restaurants. Think about grocery stores with prepared meals. How big a deal that's been during COVID as well. Meal replacement options at grocery stores like Publix and Whole Foods. They've got some great hot and cold food bars and packaged products put together to take home. There are companies out there like Blue Apron that deliver a box of food on your doorstep with all the ingredients, the recipes, and you complete that meal at home. Of course, there's delivery. You can get almost any kind of restaurant meal delivered today from Uber, DoorDash, and all the other competitors out there. So you need to think about, how do I make this work for me? Do I need to use delivery to compete out there as part of my solution? And then think about your solution. What is your solution to the customer problems that you perceive are out there? Is it a secret family recipe that you've got that, is to die for? And then the other thing you really need to ask yourself, if you've got this great family recipe, is uh, can I scale this to a point where I can really make money in a restaurant? Do I have a creative menu with unique foods and drinks? The location, we talked about that already, but it's critical that customers are on your or moving through the travel path that takes them by your restaurant. A unique service, can you provide a unique service your competition doesn't provide or that you could really excel at? Loyalty programs. Everybody in the restaurant business today has got some kind of loyalty program out there. So think about what you can do to make your place special for your customers. We talked about the third place, that unique warmth that sets it apart from the first two places, home and work. That was really what Starbucks was looking for. I think many companies have done a nice job with that. Panera Bread, I mentioned before, has got that warm, inviting atmosphere with fresh baked product. Chipotle's got high quality food that's locally sourced, and many different concepts out there can really fill that third place. And many of you out there would like to develop your own concept, and I'm not going to try and talk anyone out of that. I just will mention franchising as one of those areas. There may be a franchise available in your city or area that you can exploit that really does meet your customers' needs. I'll mention a website and a publication that I would encourage you all to uh, sign up for their free newsletter. This is kind of the industry newsletter for the restaurant business, the leading one out there. And the name of it is Nation's Restaurant News. And their website is nra.com, not to be confused with the National Rifle Association, but it is nra.com. And you can sign up on there to get newsletters sent to your email. That gives you a lot of free information about what's happening in the restaurant industry, the trends out there, the companies that are doing well, the menus that are being developed, suppliers. Uh, they also have a premium service you can pay for, a print version and an online. But I would just do the free version to get started, get your feet wet. Lots of interesting articles about the restaurant and the bar business. And then
Hey,
there
Paul,
are,
I got I'm sorry. I just had
sure.
a question on the top two bullets there. I think are pretty interesting as you talk about the family secret recipe and the creative menu. What are your thoughts in terms of a smaller restaurant and they're coming at it from that perspective and maybe there's something that they've been making that's just fantastic. I'd imagine scaling that, there may be issues where it's easy to make at home, but you go to make it in a restaurant environment and have to make it, at a larger quantity. There may be some challenges. And then also as you put in the second part there, the not just the creativity, but I guess the depth of the menu. What are your thoughts there? Is there a place for something that's limited, or do they need to have a wide enough scope of variety?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at some of the restaurant concepts that are out there that have been highly successful with a limited menu, and I would look at something like a Chipotle, uh, very limited menu, and they do a great volume. You can look at some other restaurants where the menu can almost be a book, but it's hard to be good at all things. So limited menus tend to be the way to go in terms of being unique and of very high quality. There's very few, I guess, secret recipes out there that really uh, end up being a restaurant concept. But I know, having talked to a lot of restaurant people and people wanting to get into the business, many of them have an idea of a product that they're very familiar with that they can replicate. And again, I think it goes back to, can that be done at scale and still maintain that same high quality and make money at it? Can you sell enough of that product? Uh, is your hamburger going to be better than the guys down the road? 10 or 15 years ago, I would have stayed out of the burger business because I thought it was saturated. Along comes a couple of these concepts like Five Guys and probably a half a dozen others that upgraded the quality of the meat, they upgraded the quality of the bun, the toppings, and there's been a real surge in burger restaurants out there today. So sometimes the recipe is not unique in terms of something no one's ever heard of, but it's taking an existing product and making it just that much of a higher quality that people are willing to pay for it.
Thank you.
We want to talk a little bit about franchising, and again, a lot of people want to open their own concept. I will say, franchising offers you a few benefits. Um, you've got that instant name recognition in many cases, and the trademarks are already established. It does reduce your risk because franchise restaurants have a much lower failure rate than independent restaurants. Typically, it's a proven business model that's working in a number of locations, so you can take that business model to your geography and develop that. Franchise disclosure documents are out there, so they have to give you all the relevant information about their franchise, the sales they do, the pro forma P&Ls, the legal aspects. Are they being sued by anyone, for instance? And then you've got the current franchisees' contact information. So if you want to call someone a couple hundred miles away that's running this concept and chat with them, that's available. And then also, once you're in that franchise, then there's really that franchise family of independent operators out there that you can talk to and really are mentors to you as well. And then the other thing we really want to talk about here is the unique value proposition. Um, why should a customer buy from you? What makes you different? Uh, and there are many things you can do that distinguish you from someone else or make you different and better. Location, do you really have an opportunity? And in this environment, we've seen a lot of turnover in the restaurant business. Do you have that opportunity to lease that main location, the one that really gets you out in front of the competition? Um, Dining options, what are you looking to do? Is it inside only, or do you need outside dining to be successful in addition to interior dining? Do you need a small bar with seating? What's the target customer you're looking for? Drive-through we talked about, rapid pickup, curbside pickup, catering and delivery. Those are all options to really add value to your restaurant. Parties inside the restaurant. Do you have a large enough space that you can do birthday parties or some types of parties in addition to your normal sit-down business? And then web apps. Today's customers really use web apps to think about where they want to eat, to get to menus, to get to pricing, to make those dining decisions and ordering decisions. So you really need to think about if you don't have a web app, you're going to need to put one together. And then what are the competitive advantages? I would think for many of you, your biggest competitive advantage is your experience. Most people that are trying to get into the restaurant business are there as an employee today. So your experience in that restaurant business is probably one of your biggest competitive advantages. And can you take that and your understanding of the food service industry and how complex it is and really use that as an advantage to opening your restaurant? Again, we talked about a secret recipe or a way of creating that product that is better than the competition. Do you have that? Franchising, again, we've talked about a little bit, and again, don't want to discourage anyone from developing their own concept, but franchising is always an alternative, and they do provide that established business model. Now, with a franchise, you have an initial franchise fee and an ongoing royalty fee that's typically 5% of your sales, and in many cases there'd be a marketing fee as well. But for those fees, you're given a business model and a lot of coaching to help you be successful. And then the brand, that's going to be a competitive advantage, whether you develop your own brand over time or you buy a franchise that has an established brand. You're going to have something that brands your concept in the eyes of the consumer as the place they want to go to. Your suppliers can be a real competitive advantage. They can really help you, these institutional food suppliers, develop some menu items. And again, franchising is really their branded food, and you really can't deviate from that. Location we talked about, but it can be a tremendous advantage if you can outflank the competition. And then this point about an elevator speech, in 30 seconds, capture the attention and buying interest in your product or service. Think about it in terms of if you wanted to sell your restaurant concept or your restaurant project to a banker or an investor or a landlord to get a lease, what could you tell them in 30 seconds? So it's got to be all those high points that would really capture their attention, their interest, and sell them on your concept. Then think about the channels to promote your business. Advertising, marketing, and promotion. Franchise concepts provide material for you. If you're doing your own independent restaurant, ask yourself the question, can I create high quality advertising, merchandising, and promotion materials, or do I need to outsource that and find someone that can put that together for me? Loyalty programs, like I mentioned, everyone has a loyalty program today. Can you come up with something that's competitive? Visual noise is low cost. It's typically banners, flags, balloons, blow up figures, but it's a way to, at a low cost, pull people's eyes towards your business, towards your signs, help get people over to your business. Printed flyers are low cost, easy to distribute. Email lists. It's another reason why we use loyalty programs, because we want to capture the email addresses of our existing customers in addition to potential customers so that we can keep them excited about coming back to our restaurants. Exterior signage and banners. Signs can be expensive, banners not. So, that's in the mix, but obviously you want signage that's appropriate for your business that can draw people's attention. Billboards are typically used just for directional. So if you've got that main to main location, you probably don't need the billboard, but if you're around the corner, you have to have some way to tell people where you are. And then there's cross promotional activities you can do with other merchants that are not direct competitors to play off each other. In today's world of website, and web apps are absolutely critical. If you can't develop those, you're going to have to get some help because in today's environment, people go to your website and use their web apps to figure out where they're going to go for dinner or late night, and it's going to be more and more important as we move forward. And then look at the revenue streams that are going to come from your business. Uh, there's many things to look at. Food sales, obviously, uh, but as you look at some of the competition out there, many of these concepts work hard at increasing the food sales through promotions like Panera Bread will do a you pick two soup and salad or sandwich and soup or whatever it may be, and McDonald's will be out there with a make it a meal, adding an entree, a side, and a drink, and they discount those to a degree, but they really build the check. Day part sales, is it morning, afternoon, chill that you're wanting to get some additional business. Panera Bread always looked at morning and afternoon chill as those periods between breakfast and lunch that are slow, and between lunch and dinner where it's kind of slow. And they would try and build business around those day parts. So, is there an opportunity for you there? Drink sales, huge opportunity to generate additional revenue. Think about Starbucks and the premium drinks they sell. A cup of coffee is, I don't know, $2, but they can make a latte or something and get you to spend $4 for that. Sonic does a happy hour on their specialty drinks, and those are all non-alcoholic. But think about it, a fast food restaurant that does specialty drinks or a happy hour at a discount. Alcohol sales in and of themselves are typically pretty profitable. But if you look at alcohol sales, um, you generally can only sell one entree to a customer. And if you're really lucky, you can sell them an entree and an appetizer. And if you're really lucky, you can sell them an entree, an appetizer, and a dessert. And normally you're going to get one drink sale. But it's much easier to get the second drink sale than it is to get another entree, a dessert. Um, and those are very, very profitable. When you think about an extra drink sale, it's only the cost of goods and maybe a little bit of variable labor in there. You've already paid your rent, you've paid your banker, you've paid your landlord. So getting that extra sales is highly profitable. The same holds true for appetizers and desserts. You don't have to make a lot of money on a dessert. All you need to do is sell a lot of desserts because the people are already in your establishment, enjoying your establishment. Many of your fixed costs are already covered, and that's just easy profit dollars. E-sales using an app, that's essential in today's environment. Uh, some of the companies out there like Chipotle, I can think of, I know Panera Bread, I work for that company, by the way, uh, have really been leaders in that over the last 7 or 8 years. And a high percentage of their total sales now are generated as e-sales, having ordered and paid with their smartphone. Catering is a big opportunity to generate additional revenue in your restaurant. You have your fixed costs already. You've developed this restaurant. You've got the equipment, the rent you're paying. You may have a bank note you're making a payment on. You've already got staffing and management in the restaurant. Can you put a little spin on that and get some catering going on the side to generate additional revenue? Then look at the cost structure. Um, And we're going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail, but there are startup costs, and those really are one-time costs, that are going to hit you before you get open and take in that first dollar of sales. And then the fixed ongoing costs, that's your monthly rent, your monthly payment to the bank, many times internet, insurance, even to some degree, the utilities are fixed, even though they will go up as your volume, your business goes up. And then the variable costs, uh, they really change with the amount of business you do. So let's take a look at each one of these, and starting with the startup costs. The lease or purchase of land and building, that's all got to be done up front. Typically on a lease, you're paying first month and last month. Um, the physical plant, is it freestanding, is it a food court, or is it inline? Um, Many different costs to build that out. The leasehold improvements, think about what they're going to be, and those would be, if you lease an empty space, how are you going to build that out? Um, Many times, a landlord will do that for you and roll that cost into the lease. Uh, Furniture, fixture, and equipment, that's a big one that is a huge cost, but it's one of those that you've got to buy your furniture, your fixtures, and your equipment before you get started. You have to have an opening inventory. You've got to be hiring and training people. That's a cost that's going to happen before you have that first dollar's worth of sales. And then franchising fees. If you choose to franchise, there's a dollar fee per restaurant, and that can vary widely. Uh, but it's probably $10,000 to $25,000 per location that's got to be paid up front. If you need a consultant uh, to help you with your restaurant, that's a cost, obviously. And then legal, bookkeeping, tax services, those are all things that you've probably got to put in place before you start your business. So think about your startup costs in terms of all the money I need to spend before I get my first dollar's worth of sales. And make sure that you leave a little cushion there, because you don't want to get to the point where you're ready to open your business and you're $10,000 short and you got a few bills to pay before you can open up. And then fixed or ongoing costs. These are costs once you get open for business that are going to reoccur typically on a monthly basis. That would be rent, loan payments, utilities, management labor is always going to be there, insurance, utilities to a degree are fixed. Think about the management labor. You can't work 7 days a week, so you're going to have to put together a plan, whether that be salaried or hourly managers that need to be there to help you run your business. And then the variable costs. There are two big ones here. One is cost of sales and the other one is labor. And cost of sales is really your food cost and packaging cost. If you serve alcohol, alcohol would also be in that number. And that number is normally going to run in the high 20s, low 30s. The same with labor as a percent of sales. So let's say 28 to 32% um, of your sales dollars is going to go towards the cost of the food, the alcohol, the packaging that puts that together. You're going to have another 26 to 30% in labor costs, and labor is getting more and more difficult every day in terms of costs going up. So those two costs together are at a minimum 60% of your sales are going towards labor and the cost to prepare your food and package it. And then
Okay.
of those, yes.
I was just going to say, when you're talking about labor, Paul, I think it's, like you said, it's very pertinent today. There's sort of a labor shortage out there in terms of overall food service, hospitality. So I don't know if you have any thoughts there with the owners that are struggling right now just to get employees and show up and to get hires in place.
It's always been a tough uh, labor market for restaurants because you're typically it's in many cases not a career. It's in between job for a lot of folks, especially people going to school or still trying to figure out what career path they want to take. So it's been at the low end of the scale for a long time. And you see today, Chipotle a week or so ago announced they were going to $15 an hour immediately in some markets, and I believe their plan was over the next 12 months to get to $15 in all markets. McDonald's about a week ago made an announcement very similar. They were going to $15 in some of their really high cost of living markets. Obviously, New York City, it costs more to live there than it does in Lincoln, Nebraska. So Lincoln may be at 10, 11, $12 an hour, but they're going to be at 15 in New York City. So you've got to figure out ways to make sure you keep good help, and that's treating people right. You're going to have to be competitive with wages and benefits, and it gets tougher and tougher out there. Um, but there's no magic bullet. It's simply treating people right, treating them fairly, making sure we get people that really enjoy the hospitality business because it is a high pace business, as many of you already know. But yeah, I would say my biggest challenge today, if I were getting in the restaurant business, is getting enough good help that I can afford. The other variable costs, that are somewhat smaller but still significant are advertising costs. They typically run around 5% of your sales. Advertising, marketing, promotion, those roll together would be about 5%. And typical cost on franchise fees is also about 5%. And then let's take a look at some of the key metrics. What do we look at if we're in the restaurant business to judge whether or not we're doing well? And we look at sales, number one, and we really look at that day to day, week to week. We always talk about comp sales. How's this Monday do against last Monday? How does this week do against the same week last year? Uh, Cost of sales, we look at every week. We take an inventory on our restaurants. We calculate what our cost of sales were. How much food and packaging did we use to service our guests? And that's got to be on budget. I mean, if we're budgeting 30% and that's in our pro forma, we need to get there. Same thing with labor cost. We can't go short-handed and give bad service, but at the same time, if we're paying $15 an hour, we can't have people standing around. So we've got to be diligent about managing those two big costs. So we track them very closely every day. Um, Customer counts really tell you how you're doing long term, and same with check average. Am I getting more dollars out of every customer that comes in? Cash flow, we look at that really more on a monthly or period basis because that's when we're paying our bills. Most of our bills are coming due on a monthly basis, and we want to make sure that we have the sales to cover our costs, that we have the money coming in to cover our costs. The other key metrics that I mentioned earlier is comp sales and comp customer counts. Comp sales will tell you how you're doing in sales, and obviously we have a pro forma, a target in mind, what we want to do every day and for the week and for the period. But if we look at comp sales this year versus last year for this same week, and we took 3% pricing, and our sales are equal, we're really down 3%. And that's where customer count comes in, because customer count looks at, if I serviced 1,000 customers this week and I serviced 1,000 customers this same week last year, at least I'm even. And we obviously want to see those grow, but customer count really tells you the 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 true number on, am I growing my business? And then what's really missing here? Have we overlooked anything? Do you have a bio put together for your business, for yourself, your key partners? Do you have a management team or an advisory team besides yourself? Any people that really help you make those tough decisions? Do you have that startup budget? Critically important, and like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you capture all those costs you're going to have to cover prior to your first dollar's worth of sales, and then have a pad in there so that you don't get down to the wire ready to open and you don't have money to buy your first week's inventory. Make sure you have projected revenue or sales for that first 12 months. And then an expense schedule, your fixed and variable costs. You want to put together that pro forma statement that says on at least a monthly or period basis, what are my sales going to be? What are all my line item costs on my P&L? And do I have enough sales to cover all those costs and still make a profit? And then, is there anything that really needs more explaining that you've put together in your plan to this point that maybe we need more detail? Is there anything missing before you go talking to landlords and bankers and partners or potential partners? And an entrepreneur bio, you can create that detailed LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is a great source to sell yourself and also find good people. Who are you? What are your qualifications? What's your background? What's your, experience, education? So you want to make sure that you get that down pat. Sell yourself. The management and key partners. Who's going to manage the business day to day? Who are the key players besides the day-to-day operator? That may be you, it may not be you, but who else is involved that really needs to help you make good decisions? Industry professionals. Do you have friends and associates in the business? Many people that are in the restaurant business today as an employee or a manager, they have many great contacts. So when they get into business themselves, they have lots of folks that they can lean on for advice. Also, there are attorneys, accountants, mentors out there that can help give you good advice because you're not going to know all the legal ramifications or all the tax implications of the accounting. So you're going to need to put that together and make sure that you have a team that can help you with making these big decisions. Revenue projections and cash flow projections, they're critically important. We typically in the restaurant business look at revenue and cash flow on a weekly basis and then more closely on a monthly or period basis. Most restaurants today doing an accounting system in 4-week periods. So they'll do a year in 13 4-week periods versus 12 months. So they're always comparing 28 days to 28 days. Each period is 4 weeks. Um, so it just makes it easier to compare. And then you really want to make sure that that first year of revenue projections and cash flow projections are as tight as they can be. That you've done a good job of understanding what your revenue projections are, being realistic, and what your cost structure is going to be, so that going into it, you have a good feel for what do I need in sales and how does that relate to profitability after I take all my costs out. And then startup budget, we've touched on this a couple times, but that really needs to include all the costs you're going to run into prior to that first dollar's worth of sales. And sometimes that's hard to get your arms around, but if you have been in the restaurant business, you've probably had a good understanding of all those costs. uh, I know in my experience, I helped open a lot of new restaurants, and there's just a lot of cost out there that until you've experienced it, you may or may not appreciate how much it does cost to get into business. So do your research and make sure that you know what it's going to be to get the lease signed, your licensing and permits, your insurance, whatever improvements you need to make to that facility or remodeling to make that your brand. The cooking and kitchen equipment, those are costs that you can control to a degree because there's a lot of used restaurant equipment out there that's very functional. Usually, restaurant equipment is equipment that is very commercial in nature and can be repaired. So, we open a lot of restaurants using used equipment. You can find used equipment dealers all over. You can either buy it, some of these folks will lease it to you. You can also lease new equipment if that's the route you're going. But between the furniture, the fixtures, and the equipment, used is one alternative, and leasing is another one that really helps you control costs. The point of sale system, they are getting very expensive today because they're very much integrated with all of the back of the house monitors that are sending orders from the front to the back. Many of them today are tied into the apps so that you can order off your phone. You send the order to the restaurant. You've already got your credit card in the app, so you're paying for it before you get there. So that can be a big cost up front today. Signage and that initial advertising can be a big cost as well. So put together your startup budget. Make sure you got some padding in there so you don't run short prior to getting your doors open. And with that, I would just like to bring us to a close and just say, if there are any other questions, we certainly can stay on and take those at this time. So, Jerry, have we got anything else coming in?
Paul, I don't see anything in the queue right now. Just a general question that I had. So if you're brand new to the industry and you're thinking about starting a restaurant, where do you think the initial focus would it be something on the menu or that they're the target that they're going to be trying to cater to, or where do you think those initial stages are and where the focus of the entrepreneur should be at the very beginning?
Well, at the very beginning, I think you've got to ask yourself that question: what customer problem am I trying to solve?
Hmm.
And that could be many things, but is there a need for a better burger out there? Is there a need for uh, a better coffee or drink shop out there? Uh, is someone not servicing the the young crowd of professionals, let's say in downtown Greenville, that are getting off of work and they're catching a cocktail before dinner and then having dinner, maybe sitting out on a patio? What is it you're trying to solve? Um, something a customer is looking for, and right now uh, they don't really, there isn't someone out there that's really filling that need for them. So it can be product, it can be location, it can be the service, it can be the atmosphere, but you've got to come up with something that says, I can do this well enough to satisfy a customer or enough customers at scale that I can make money doing it and that I can do it better than the competition. Um, and I and again, I think you can all think about many concepts out there that have done this. I mentioned Starbucks with the foo-foo drinks or the expensive drinks or really customization. Chipotle just that very limited menu but high quality Mexican food. Um, there's just many folks out there that have done that where they've created an answer to a problem that the competition hasn't. And again, you can't discount location. If you're in the heart of the activity in that trade area and you're on Main and Main, you've got a leg up on the competition from the get-go.
Yeah, that's great, Paul. Thanks so much. Yeah, if any, I noticed you got a few that sort of joined us a little bit late. I'm going to be sending out some information probably in the next couple of days. So you'll get some information on the Lean Canvas, a copy of this slide deck. We're also recording the webinar, so it's going to be up on our YouTube channel. So I'll get that out to you guys too. Anybody that's missed the beginning portion of this. We'll stay on for just another few seconds. If anybody has any questions, please pop them in. And if you have any questions after, just please reach out to me. You can respond to the email that I'm going to send out to you guys with the attachments. And we're here to help. Like we said at the beginning, piedmont.score.org. You can check out other workshops that we have coming up. You can request a mentor if you are moving forward with your business or want some more information in terms of planning. And yeah, I guess with that we're gonna wrap things up this morning. So thanks so much, Paul. We really appreciated your insights here. Where it's very unique for us to get that level of expertise from somebody like yourself that has years of experience, hands-on, actually doing this with multiple restaurants. So I hope everybody enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon at another workshop. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jerry.